Hello and welcome back to the Odds Now YouTube channel for your daily World Grand Prix betting preview and predictions with myself, Matt Hill. It's been a hell of a week so far, up and down from a betting perspective. Started very well for me on Monday, tougher going on Tuesday and Wednesday, although I was pleased to see 25-1 selection Johnny Clayton make it through last night's final game, beating Ross Smith. We also had Clayton up there at 6-5 for the victory. So that was a satisfactory end to a night that swung both ways, really. I had Nathan Aspinall to win with the most 180s at 17-10. Won the 180 count comfortably, missed 3 match darts. But I've got to be honest, I was really pleased for Ryan Joyce, who I thought was good value for that win. Really good performance for him. And he stood up in the big moments. And yeah, delighted to see him having a run there. A player I have a lot of admiration for. So yeah, massively enjoyed the action last night as well. Thought Luke Humphries was pretty impressive as well, getting the job done once again. So yeah, 4 more quarterfinals on the menu tonight. And as I touched on in my written preview of today's action, well, it is a really open look inside to the draw with the likes of Michael van Gerwen, Chris Dobey, Damon Heta and others all crashing out at round 1. So opportunity knocks for the 8 men remaining. This is the order of play for this evening on your screen now. We start with Gary Anderson, Mike DeDecker, followed by Gerwyn Price and James Wade. James Wade, of course, an outright selection of mine, the only one still standing after Chris Dobey's departure, backed at 100-1 with a Ladbrokes boost, but 80-1 was the advised price. Wade is into around 25s. He'll half again if he does get past price tonight, so fingers crossed there. Daryl Gurney versus Joe Cullen. I didn't expect to be saying that. I thought that was going to be MVG versus Dobey, but there we are. And Dave Chisnall rounds off the night. He takes on Demitri Bergh. So an exciting night of action, of course. First of 3 sets in the second round games, so a little bit more time for the players to settle in. I definitely think we saw that help the more experienced players last night on the whole, and I'm expecting similar again tonight. So let's start with Gary Anderson versus Mike DeDecker. And this is 2 players with obviously quite contrasting levels of experience in these kind of events. Anderson, the veteran, the former 2-time world champion, and DeDecker just making his way in the game. We have seen a little bit of Mike DeDecker on the big stage, so it's not all that surprising to see him doing well. But he has, for me, been a player that I've been waiting to see kick on in this kind of tournament. And I think we're seeing that now. Obviously won his first PDC title earlier this year on the floor, a Pro Tour event. And yeah, some good performances on TV more recently. So I do think he's starting to take that next step now. Anderson, of course, after the exits of MVG, Dobey, Michael Smith, etc., he had to dodge a couple of match darts, it should be said, against Michael Smith in his opener. But he's still standing. And as a result of those other high-profile exits, Anderson is now favourite to make the final from this section. He is 9-4 to be in the final, which is the shortest of anybody remaining in the bottom half. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. We need to see. Obviously, Gary Anderson on the floor for the last 2 years now has been the best player around. But we need to see more evidence for me that he's fully able to bring that, even 90% of that game to the big stage. So flashes against Michael Smith of brilliance. The double-double attempt stands out, and also the way that he returned to the board after dodging those match starts and took out that high-pressure 49 so ruthlessly. Vintage Anderson in many ways there. But I'm still not sure he's fully finding that floor form, and this will be a tricky examination for him. On paper, it's a comfortable win for Anderson, isn't it? He's 2-5. I think DeDecker's out around 2-1. But I do expect this to be close. Now, an interesting comment that I noticed from Gary Anderson recently when he was talking about the emergence of young talent going through, he referenced Mike DeDecker as one of the most exciting players on the circuit. And that's an interesting one for me because they haven't played each other all that many times. They've recently met in a Pro Tour event. That was only their second meeting in the last 4 years. Anderson won that 6-3. It was a high-quality affair, as you would expect. And I wonder if Anderson has admiration for DeDecker because he probably sees a bit of himself in it. They've both got beautiful, rhythmical, flowy sort of throwing actions, both very fast-paced, and both are very good at following their first start in, and therefore big 180 hitters. Both Anderson and DeDecker rank inside the top 5 in the PDC this year for 180s. So it's a natural way to look in, isn't it? Now, the 180 line is pretty tight. Anderson, a narrow favourite to come out on top there against DeDecker. But I don't like really backing on a number of 180s in these games because there's too many variables for me with the double start, with a various amount of sets, etc. So I look for an alternative angle, and I noticed that both Bet365 and Betfair offer this nice little market, which is to happen in every set. And 180s is something that is offered in that section. Now, I want to back both players individually to hit a 180 in every set because I think that the pace of the game is going to suit both of them. I'm expecting a high quality affair. Obviously, if it ends up being a 3-0 or a 3-1, then you've only got 3 or 4 sets to cover it. If it goes 3-2, this is going to be a little bit trickier to land. But I think there's a little bit of value there that's worth taking. So Mike De Decker, 3-1. With Bet365 to hit a 180 in every set. Gary Anderson 7-2 with Betfair to hit a 180 in every set. So I think if you cover both of them, there's a fair chance that one of them cops. And just in case they both cop, Sky Bet do offer 9-1 on both players to hit a maximum in each set, and I think that's maybe worth a very small investment as well. So that's the way I'm playing this first game. I'm expecting fireworks, and I think Anderson will have too much for De Decker in the end, but might be some hairy moments for the Flying Scotsman. Looking forward to watching that one. Great start to the evening. Game 2 is Gerwyn Price taking on James Wade, and these two good friends off the hockey. But this is a big game for both of them, isn't it? A big opportunity. As I say, all of these players will be sensing a chance to serve a deep run. Gerwyn Price's record here is phenomenal in recent times. He's made at least semi-finals in the last 4 years. I'm sure looking at the draw, he fancies his chances of extending that run. But the 2020 champion, I thought, was pretty poor in his opening round game to Danny Noppert. He got a good lead built up. He was a set and 2-0 up. Despite not playing that well, and he was unable to close the game out there. Noppert roared back at him in the second set, levelled the game up, and then Noppert was 2-0 up in that deciding set, missed a match start for a 3-0 win in the set and to win the match. And of course, the rest is history. Price battling back, dodging a few bullets and getting through. But it wasn't vintage from Price, and all the concerns that we had about him coming into this event, i.e. just looking a little bit out of sorts, kind of came to the fore there. But he is a grower. He does grow into tournaments. But yeah, I think this is a really, really tough game for him against James Wade. Obviously, I won't be personally getting invested in this match too much because I've got Wade as an outright runner, and that's more than enough interest for me here. But I must say, I do fancy Wade's chances here. I'm quietly confident. Wade, they've had one meeting this year. Wade won it 6-4. It was only last month. It was on the European Tour as well, so a stage victory. Price was 4-2 up there, and Wade roared back to win it 6-4. Checkouts of 140 and 121 in those last 4 legs as well. So that is a big confidence boost for Wade. I think the overall head-to-head, although more recent times have favoured Price, overall Wade has beaten Price more than Price has beaten him. So I think Wade has every reason to be confident in this particular matchup. The double-in start, as I say, really suits Wade, a former winner here many moons ago. His recent record hasn't been so good, but I really like the way he took care of business against Peter Wright. He fell a set down, despite playing well in that first set. He had chances to win the first set. Wright won it in the end, but he didn't panic. He never looked flustered. And I think that's just epitomises the way Wade is playing in the last couple of months. He rarely looks flustered. He's been having good deep runs on the floor, good deep runs on the European Tour, some really high quality performances and wins over the likes of Price, over the likes of Vessel Nyman. And yeah, I like what I'm seeing from Wade at the moment. So, yeah, what can I say? I'm quietly confident about him here. He's a 5-4 outsider in this match. And if I didn't already have my interests in the outright market, then I would be putting that up as a strong fancy. So I've included it in my best bets. Yeah, James Wade 5-4. That'll do for me. Game 3 of 4 is Daryl Gurney versus Joe Cullen. As I said at the start of the video, I thought this was going to be Michael van Gerwen versus Chris Dobie. So just shows how dramatically you can get it wrong in this format. But both of these were really impressive in causing their upsets in different ways. Daryl Gurney just didn't give Van Gerwen a sniff, did he? Won all 6 legs. Not sure anybody saw that one coming. You would have got a hefty old price about that occurring. But it's interesting. It's hard to know how much of that result was down to Gurney's brilliance and how much was down to Van Gerwen being flat, because as much as I want to give praise to the Northern Irishman, I was bitterly disappointed with Van Gerwen. He never looked at it, never looked settled. And Gurney was allowed to close it out with a minimum of fuss, really, not really ever put under any pressure. And he takes on Joe Cullen here, who was wildly unfancied against Chris Dobie. Chris Dobie, my outright fancy for this tournament. Well, I was sitting very comfortably when Derby took out 160 to win the first set, and then 1-1 in the second set against the darts. Derby was 200 points ahead, sat on double 16. Somehow managed to lose that leg, and shows how quickly these games can flip, because Cullen quickly closed out that set. And in set 3, while Derby struggled to get off in the first couple of legs, Cullen found darts that we've not seen from him for a couple of months, to be honest. Very impressive, really good, effective getting off, good scoring, and a good finishing phase as well. So plenty to like about the last set and a half from Joe Cullen. He declared afterwards in his press conference that form goes out the window at the World Grand Prix because of the unusual format. So to me, that's kind of him resetting himself after a tough couple of months and drawing a line under it and looking forward. And when I was diving into the stats here, I was amazed to see Joe Cullen's record against Daryl Gurney. They've played each other 21 times in their career, and Cullen has won 16 of those meetings, so over a 75% win record against Gurney. Now, that kind of record is significant. When they're top pros, top 16 level players, you don't expect to be having a 75+% loss record against a fellow pro, even a Van Gerwen or a Price or a Littler. So, yeah, I think that'll play a factor in this, in the mind of Gurney. He has a similarly bad record, even worse record against Ryan Searle. I think he's on like a 15-match losing streak. And when he played Searle last month in the Euro Tour, I noticed that he was in control of that match. But once Searle started to come into it, there was head shaking, there was eye rolling, there was this kind of like admittance from Gurney of, oh, here we go again. So if he's conscious of this bad record against Cullen, which I'm sure he will be, then I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of mentally psychs himself out a little bit, Gurney. He's on a 4-year run without any kind of title in the PDC. I think it's actually a 5-year run. So it's a long time between drinks for Gurney. Cullen will have his tail up, having played well for the first time in what feels like forever. So, yeah, I think, again, there's enough reason to want to be with the outsider here. And there's some decent prices floating about on Joe Cullen at the moment. I think he's 13-10 the last time I looked, which seems very fair to me. So, again, I'm going to recommend a little play on the underdog here. Final game of the night is Dave Chisnall taking on Demitri van den Bergh. And I talk about players hoping to take advantage of the prominent exits from MVG and the likes. Well, Chizzy is another one well fancied. And if Anderson doesn't make the final, you feel like he could be the man to take advantage, because he's playing so well. 4 titles for Chizzy already this year, 2 Euro Tours, 2 floor events. That follows up 5 titles that he landed last year. He is a former finalist here at the World Grand Prix, so the double-in format doesn't seem to bother him so much. And he won all 6 legs without reply against Cameron Menzies, who, despite Cammy being quite critical of his performance on social media, to put it lightly, I didn't think he played that badly. I thought Chizzy was just too good for him on the night. No shame in that, because Chisnall has been, as I say, in rude health recently on the floor and on the big stage. We all know his major record. That is the big caveat, isn't it, with Dave Chisnall every time? And I think the one thing that makes you temper your expectations, he's never won that PDC major. But it does look like things are opening up for him here. Like I say, if he gets his way past Demitri van den Bergh, a quarterfinal with Gurney or Cullen isn't going to cause him too much concern either. But Chizzy can't afford to look too far ahead. He just has to take it game by game, continue playing to the excellent standard that we've seen from him in recent times. Demitri van den Bergh's been pretty dreadful in the last couple of months, but it just reaffirms for me that this guy is a big stage player, a 2-time major winner, someone who saves his very best for the big stage and maybe needs that atmosphere and that expectation and that buzz to get the best out of him. He's going to take on Chisnall here as an underdog, but that won't faze Demitri one bit. And the level of performance we saw against Luke Woodhouse, it makes me think that he has every chance of causing an upset here against Chizzy. Now, these two's head-to-head records are pretty tight, but they have played each other in majors on 4 occasions, and it's 2 wins apiece. And all of those games have gone quite deep. They met at the Worlds recently, a couple of years ago. I think that was a 4-2 victory for Van den Bergh. They played each other at the match play. I think it was last year. That was 11-8 or 11-9. So they do tend to go deep. They suit each other's game. And I think both of these players are quite prone to having peaks and troughs in games and just finding ways of staying in games when they're not playing well. So all things considered, I think there's a fair chance that this goes all the way. It's a big game for both of them. And I think there could be a bit of tension in the air as well as a bit of quality. So over 4.5 sets is the one I want to play here. You can get just shy of 2-1. I think 15-8 available on this going to a final set. And I think it has a real chance of doing so. So that's the way Thursday, I'm going to play the last game of the night. So I'm going to bring my best bets for this evening up onto your screen now. As I say, individual bets on Mike DeDecker and Gary Anderson to hit a 180 in every set of 3-1 and 7-2 respectively, and just covering, just in case, both of them to achieve that feat at 9-1 with Sky Bet. I fancy James Wade for an upset against Gerwyn Price, but I'm not going to have a bet on that myself just because I have Wade quite handsomely covered in the outright and quarter markets. So I'll be rooting for the machine there. Joe Cullen, I think, is a good price against Daryl Gurney, and it is all about price ultimately. So I put Cullen up there at 13-10. And that last game, as I say, I think there's legs for this one to go very deep. Could be a bit of a late finish, actually, because I think there's some close games here tonight. But yeah, Chisnall Vandenberg over 4.5 sets appeals to me at 15-8. So they're my bets for Thursday evening. Plenty of interest there. As I say, my main interest is in James Wade, who were on 80 or 100-1 in the outright market. So fingers crossed Wadey can find a way through there. Johnny Clayton, somebody I advised on Wednesday's video, is maybe worth taking a slice of at 25s in the outright market. He found his way past Ross Smith. Wasn't a vintage performance, but he got the job done. He's now into 12-1. He takes on Luke Humphries in the quarterfinal, which will obviously be a big acid test for him. But you take your chance, I think, over the format. And yeah, quite happy with my outright positions at the moment. We'll be even happier if James Wade finds his way through tonight. So I hope you enjoyed this quickfire preview. Let me know who you fancy to perform on Thursday in the World Grand Prix. And then we'll be on to the quarterfinals on Friday. I'll be on hand to give you my best bets and predictions tomorrow. Leave a comment and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. And don't forget to subscribe to Odds Now for all things betting. We'll see you again very soon.